And in those games that Kansas City lost, their offense scored 17 against the Bills, 19 against the Packers, 17 against the Eagles. They scored 21 in that win against the Dolphins, and then they scored 20 against Detroit. All of those games were low-scoring games.
Yeah.
And they just, their offense just couldn't get going. So I know a lot of people are looking at Lamar and Mahomes, and they're seeing a short total of 44.5, but both these teams got good defenses.
Yeah.
I could see it being like a 23-17, 23-20 kind of game. I think it goes under. But yeah, I do like the Ravens to win the game. My favorite bet, player prop wise, is Patrick Mahomes over 36.5 pass attempts. The 6 games that the Chiefs have lost this year, 5 of those 6 games, he's gone 37 or more pass attempts. So that's their script. When they're trailing, they're not running the ball as much. They lean on Mahomes. They throw it a lot. And if you like the Ravens, like, I do and like you do, I think that's a good correlation, is taking Mahomes over the passing attempts.
I like the attempts. Took over on the rushing yards. I also took Gus Edwards over rushing yards. I think that's what this game comes down to, man, is you could run the ball on the Chiefs. Baltimore's going to have to run the ball. Lamar's going to have to use his legs. They're going to have to take some shots down the field. They're going to have to use a little bit of play action. And then, defensively, they're going to have to get after Mahomes. But I do like the matchup against Kelsey because Kyle Hamilton.
Yep.
And you could line him up all over the place. So I like Baltimore. I like the under. That was the first bet that I placed on Monday morning.
Look, this is a game that they're going to give Lamar the ball. I mean, he's going to want it. There's a different energy about Lamar when he plays the Chiefs. Like, he takes it personally because in his mind, he thinks he's the best quarterback in the NFL, but he knows that one guy on his level, if not better, is Mahomes. And he knows that to get to where he wants to go and win a Super Bowl, he's got to go through Mahomes. So he's going to want the ball in his hands on those design zone run reads. Like, if there's even a little bit of doubt in Lamar's mind that he has a crease, he's going to keep it. Whereas maybe in the regular season, he'll just give it to the running back. So, I mean, this is the AFC Championship game, right? So Lamar is going to go all out. He had 11 rushes last week against the Texans. And with, the Chiefs' ability and struggle stopping the run and the quarterback run, I would look at the attempts. 63.5, I mean, that number feels about right. That's a little too high. Gus Edwards almost kind of worries me too. I think I like Justice Hill more so than Gus. Justice has been really good here. Like, ever since Keaton Mitchell got hurt, it's been really good. Yeah. And I wonder, when Dalvin Cook busted off that run in the fourth quarter, if that cuts into Gus's production a little bit. Gus will obviously still be the goal line guy. He could get you a touchdown or two. But Justice Hill has kind of been their big play back. He's the guy that's been getting them the 20, 25-yard runs. Gus is just kind of like 3-4 yards every single time. So I would more so like Justice than I would like Gus Edwards. I like your Mahomes play at 25.5. I think that's a good number.
Yeah.
But Pacheco, 64.5. I think I like the under there. I do. I think the Chiefs throw the ball in this game. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. Even at 62.5, you know what, man? It might be chalky. I'm taking Lamar rushing yards. I'm looking at it. Kansas City, 28th in success rate allowed on zone read and design quarterback rushes. Lamar, 5.9 yards per carry on runs off tackle or outside the tackles. Yeah, we're gonna go with a little Lamar rushing yards in this game.
That.
Also leads the league in scrambles, forced the most missed tackles on those scrambles. So I think it's going to be a big game for Lamar. And unfortunately, I can't take back my Gus prop, so I'm sticking with them.
NFC Championship game. So this is also a game where I really like props. I don't really have much thoughts on the side or total. I lean towards the under in the game. I can't bet it until I know what's up with Debo. He's just too important.
Yeah.
At the 7, just because of the number, I'd probably lean towards Detroit. But, I'm just afraid that I was so bullish on San Francisco last week against Green Bay, and Detroit's pass defense is even worse than the Packers was, that I'm worried that the Niners are going to put in the performance against Detroit this week that I thought they would last week. So that kind of scares me. And if there's some recency bias, like I know Purdy didn't look great against the Packers, but man, San Francisco is still really, really good. So I'm passing on the side in total. The props, though, I think this is going to be a Jameson Williams game for the Detroit Lions. Because as we know, the Niners struggle against the go ball. They struggle against speed receivers, and I think Williams is due for a big day, right? Everybody's going to be betting Amon-Ra. They're going to be betting Laporta. But if you want an off-the-radar guy, I think this is a Jameson Williams game. I like him at 27.5 a lot. How can you not bet Ayuk, though, at 80.5? And, like, that line is high for a reason. Ayuk's usually in, like, the 60s. For him to be in the 80s, that's telling you something. I know, like, Debo being banged up is built into that. Look at the last 3 games the number one receivers have had going up against the Lions. Justin Jefferson, insane game. Puka, Mike Evans. I mean, these 3 guys have just gone nuts. So I think Ayuk's going to have a big day. I think he goes for 100 plus.
Yeah.
So those are the receivers I'm targeting. I think this is an Ayuk game, and I like Jameson Williams a lot, man. I bet his longest reception over. I bet over 27.5, and I bet him anytime touchdown as well.
Yeah, I'm with you on Jameson Williams. That was actually the first bet that I placed in this game, first prop that I bet. 27.5, it's minus 120 over at BetMGM, so I like that. I actually took Sam Laporta. This is scary. I took under 5.5. That's juice now, minus 155. You could shop around for different prices, of course, but I just think that San Francisco is going to be able to take away the middle of the field. I mean, Sam Laporta could easily clear this number in the first half.
Oh,
I mean,
for sure.
He's set every tight end rookie record for Detroit this season. But I just think, man, with Fred Warner and with Greenlaw in the middle of the field, that limits what he could do. And I'm with you on Jameson Williams. And then the other one that I like in this one was Christian McCaffrey, over 35.5 receiving yards, opened at 33.5. If Debo plays, this one might be dead, but I don't know that they're going to be able to run the ball against Detroit. Detroit's defense does 2 things pretty well. They could stop the run, they're top 5 against the run, and then they could get after the quarterback. So I think they're going to blitz a lot. Brock Purdy's actually pretty good against the blitz. You know, as long as Trent Williams is 100% in this game, which it looks like he's fully healthy, obviously, right now. So I think Purdy's going to have some time, and I think he's going to have a bounce-back game. It's not like this game's going to be in the rain like the game against Green Bay. And if you look without Debo in the lineup, he only missed 2 games this season. McCaffrey had 51 receiving yards and then 64 receiving yards. Even if he plays, man, with a shoulder injury, he's not going to be 100%. They're most likely winning this game. They're 7-point favorites. So I like McCaffrey. Again, 51 and 64 receiving yards, the 2 games without Debo. Even if Debo plays, I like this. And I look at the matchup. It's Jack Campbell, who's 78th out of 79th for linebackers and Pro Football Focus coverage grades. It's Derek Barnes. So I think this is a really good matchup for McCaffrey in the receiving game. So over 35.5 receiving yards. But I love that Jameson Williams play. I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm with you. Yeah, love JMO this week. I also like Jared Goff over 1.5 rushing yards. Last week against Tampa, it was a half a rushing yard. He had 6. He had like a 7-yard scramble. He had a couple QB sneaks. Dan Campbell, as we know, is as aggressive as a head coach as there is in the NFL, and they're starting to QB sneak the ball a lot with Jared Goff. So I think that could help us get over this 1.5. And if he's going to have opportunities to go for it instead of punt it, he knows he's going to need to score to beat San Francisco. So I like Goff over the 1.5 rushing yards. Obviously, kneel downs could hurt us a little bit, but I think that's a good play there. I'm trying to look for other things in like the rushing statistics, guys I like. I think it's more so a Jahmyr Gibbs than
Me too.
Like at this point in the season, you got to roll with your guys, man. And I know for the Lions, for most of the season, it's been a 1-2 punch with Montgomery and Gibbs, but Gibbs is clearly the better back. I mean, the all-around back, rushing, receiving. Like, you got to roll with him. So
Yeah.
I think Gibbs is an interesting look if you want to do the rushing and receiving combination at 75.5. I think he could be a good look.
And you know what? Like when we talk about San Francisco, we're always like, well, San Francisco could get after the quarterback and they're really good against the run. They're actually not really good against the run. They're 24th in rushing success rate. Nobody ever talks about that, though, because they're usually playing from ahead. I mean, They played the second easiest schedule in the league next to only the Saints this season, so they've been beating up on teams. But, I mean, they're not really built to be – they're built to play with the lead. So, I mean, like, I think a lot of people were shocked what Aaron Jones was able to do on the ground. Had another 100-yard rushing game. We both took unders on Aaron Jones. So I think this is a big Gibbs game. And that's a soft number. Open at 44.5. And I think he's the more explosive back. I like Montgomery. I took over 6.5 receiving yards for Montgomery because that could be one reception. And I think that Goff's going to have to check down in this game. So at a soft number, I like that. And then with Gibbs, I actually went under the receiving yards, over on the rushing yards. I think this is going to be a big Gibbs game, but on the ground, and that's why that's moved up a little bit. 47.5 rushing yards. It's minus 115 both ways. What do you think about the MVP market where, I mean, I think last week when we talked, Embiid was still 8-1 and obviously had the head-to-head matchup where they end up beating the Nuggets. He plays pretty well against Jokic, but then last night dropped 70+. If you were going to do anything in that market other than Embiid and Jokic, who would you look at? Is it even worth a bet, do you think?
I don't think so right now. I mean, so what I have in the market, and I didn't enter the market until pretty recently, I have Shea at 4, and I have Jokic at
Yeah.
250. Those are the numbers that I have. So, I mean, BetMGM looks like it might have the best Jokic number at the moment. I think the reaction to, like, the 1 or 2 performances from Embiid is just kind of funny. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But also, like, yesterday was the perfect situation for him to go off. It's a brutal defense while he's at home, but they have the one big-name player for him to be able to claim, but it was against this guy. It was against Wembanyama to try and, validate it a little bit more. Not taking away from his greatness because he was fantastic, but that's the perfect Embiid setup for what the narrative is around him right now. So do I think this is still going to ebb and flow? Yeah, between those 3 guys, I think it's very much going to ebb and flow. I've heard a little bit of thinking about Giannis now that there's, could be some stability coming to Milwaukee, but I just don't see it. I don't think that defense is going to improve enough over the course of the rest of the season because, hey, Damian Lillard and Malik Beasley are still your starting backcourt. I don't know what they can do with the limited resources. They haven't changed that. So I also don't think the Mavs are going to make some huge run to be able to truly thrust Luka into this. I think it's going to come down to those 3 dudes, and I think their numbers are going to vacillate a little bit here and there. But I guess I would say assuming nothing crazy happens to any of them, if any of them really get past that 4-1 number, maybe if you don't have a position, bet them. But outside of that, I think I'm just more or less, I have a couple positions now. If it's Embiid, I lose. And that might just be the spot because I wasn't smart enough to take advantage of Embiid when he was back at 8 or 9-1.